military's coming in and out all the time. It's where they defend Washington from. Of course they do. They don't defend Washington from Langley, Virginia. The Air National Guard is based there. They call themselves the Capitol's Guardians. They've now kind of updated it. They call themselves the Capitol's Guardians, brackets, except on September the 11th. This is what they say on their own website. The DC Air National Guard is located at Andrews Air Force Base, Camp Springs, Maryland. We're home to the fighter squadron, including F-15 Flying Falcons, the type they send up to check planes, among others. The DC Air National Guard stand ready to respond to the needs of the District of Columbia and the nation should the need arise, except on September the 11th. Its website, which detailed a lot of stuff that goes on there, went down on September the 11th and didn't come back for some considerable time. Now, this is another thing. You know, it's the official story now that they scrambled jets and didn't quite make it. Well, that wasn't the official story for a week. The official story was, from all sources, that they never scrambled anything until the Pentagon was hit. So nothing was scrambled to meet Flight 77 that was 45 minutes hijacked coming back to Washington. This is how it worked. On September the 13th, General Richard Myers, we'll get to this bugger in a minute, was asked on Capitol Hill, when was the order made to scramble jets to meet these hijacks? He said, that order, to the best of my knowledge, didn't he ask? He's the head of the bloody military at uniform level, this guy. Oh, no one mentioned it. That order, to the best of my knowledge, was after the Pentagon was struck. This was so ludicrous that the story couldn't stick. What do you mean nothing was done till the Pentagon was hit? So, September 14th, Dan Rather on CBS, without saying the source, said CBS has learned that actually jets were scrambled from Cape Cod and from Langley, Virginia, but didn't quite make it. That then was still not the official story. On September the 15th, what? 4 days later, NORAD in the Boston Globe was still denying scrambling any jets before the Pentagon was hit. Then, September the 19th, miraculously, out of the ether, 8 days after the event, NORAD issued a press release confirming that while the story that the jets were scrambled was true, they did actually do it. It took them a week to know if they scrambled jets on that morning of all mornings. The official story is being put together in fits and starts, and now it has kind of hardened into the classic official 9/11 story. This is flipping funny. This is funny if it wasn't so tragic. These are the top 3 people in the American military hierarchy. The Commander-in-Chief, George Bush, the Defense Secretary, Rumsfeld, and General Richard Myers, who was acting Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on 9/11, the top uniformed military man in the American military, and now he's the fully fledged one. What were these people doing in this crucial time? Well, I was sitting in a bar, as I am many times, watching a television of CNN just after 9/11, and they were covering live what they call in America a town meeting, a public meeting we would call it, of George Bush talking to an unbelievably sycophantic audience in Florida. And this little boy called Jordan asked him, it was live, said to him, Mr. President, I want to say how we're all proud of you, and there's big applause. Well, let's see what we're proud of, shall we? Just hold on a second. And he said, can you tell me what you were thinking when you were told about 9/11? What happened? He said, well, Jordan, he said, I knew that I had to act. Well, that's the last thing he flipping did for a start. But wait a minute for this. He said, I was visiting a school at the time, he said. This is in Florida on 9/11. He said, and I was watching this, television was on, they had a television there, well, you would have if you were watching it, George. And he said, I saw this plane hit the World Trade Center. He said, and I thought, what a terrible pilot. I'm not kidding. I've got the tape. Got the tape now. I thought it was just an accident. Well, hold on a second. Georgie boy. He was in the school classroom when the second plane hit, and the second plane was the one shown live on television. The first plane was not shown live hitting anything on television. It was recorded by a crew in the street and shown a long time later. And here's the President of the United States telling the people that he stood there and saw the first plane hit live. Impossible. Also, this is very clear, he knew that there was a problem with Flight 11, the first plane, before he got to the school. It was referred to when he first arrived. Do you know there are 7 at least official stories of how he knew, how he found out. But let's go on that. You're the President of the United States. You've just been told by whatever means, certainly not the one you say, that a commercial airliner has hit one of the Twin Towers. There is already carnage. Unbelievable. Whatever is a terrible pilot, what does this man do? How does he react? What he does is he goes into a classroom and he listens to children reading him a story about a pet frickin' goat. That's what he does. Pet goat story, I love it, yeah. Symbolism. Then, this picture went across the world. Andrew Card, the White House Chief of Staff, walks in while he's hearing about the pet goat and says something to him. Now, what George Bush said in this town meeting is, my Chief of Staff, Andy Card, he came in and he said, Mr. President, America's under attack. Well, first of all, he couldn't have said that because when you watch the amount of time he was in that position, it was so short he couldn't have got that sentence out. Whatever he said, I don't know, but it wasn't that. Anyway, what does he do now? He's just been told that a second commercial airliner has hit the World Trade Center and America's under attack. What does he do? He stays in the classroom for another 20 minutes nearly, hearing children read him a story about a pet frickin' goat. This man's a hero in America. So now we know what was really said in this famous piece of footage. Mr. President, America's under attack. Okay, Andy, as soon as I know what's happened to this goat, I'll be right out. 9:30, 25 minutes plus after the second plane hit, he makes a statement and off he goes. Don't rush, Georgie. Take your time, mate. And he goes into a mode of flying around America, doing basically nothing. I met a guy who was involved in the computer defense system of Australia, and he told me that the Australian military were on high alert after 9/11 before the American military were put there by this guy. Then, do you remember the story? When I say they lie all the time, what I really mean is they lie all the time. Do you remember that story about the terrorist threat to Air Force One? And that's why the president went flyabout instead of heading back for Washington? And apparently it said the president's plane is next. Well, little question, a bit naive of me maybe, but worth asking. Why did they drive him straight to the plane and take the bloody thing off then? Why did they do that? With no, for a long time, fighter escort. About 2 weeks after that story was given to the media, that's why he went walkabout, they had to admit, and it was printed in some newspapers, they told a lie. There was no threat, there was no phone call, just a lie. And then there's Rumsfeld. Now, he was interviewed on Larry King Live about what he was doing during 9/11. And what he said was that he was hosting a presidential delegation or a congressional delegation in his office at the Pentagon, far side from where the plane hit, right down the corridor from the command center that's supposed to orchestrate hijacked reactions. He said that during this breakfast meeting, which started around 8 o'clock, just as Flight 11, the first plane, was taking off, he said that someone came in and handed him a note saying the World Trade Center's been hit. He then said, this is words, I've got the tape, he walked out of the meeting to get a briefing, and he said, within 15 minutes, I felt a jarring thing, which was the Pentagon being hit by Flight 77. Now, we can put a timeline on this. The Pentagon was hit at 20 to 10. Go back 15 minutes when he said he got the note, you're at 25 past 9. Give him 5 minutes benefit, you're at 20 past 9. This is his own words. He is saying, and the regulations say, you can see them on the internet,